All right, so I'm going to go through this review, hopefully decently quickly, not to waste a ton of your time. But I want you to see each of the answers. Feel free to fast forward or rewind only for what you need. So yeah, let's dive right in. So using property, also usually if we were in person, there would be a calculator inactive and a calculator active. However, we're not in person, so you don't really have to stress over, oh my goodness, there's part of it where I don't get to use it, okay? All right, so for expanding, you always want to start with, hey, there's a division sign, so I'm going to go ahead and separate that with a minus sign. And then notice that there's some multiplication happening, there's some division happening. We took care of the division, but there's lots of multiplication happening. So then we could split the x cubed and the y up because they're multiplication. So we split them with a plus sign. We can split the 3 and the z up with a plus sign as well. And notice those are in parentheses because that's the part I'm separating, but that means that this minus sign would distribute. So I would really have log base 3 of 3 minus log base 3 of z. Here I would bring the exponent down to the front. And then the log base 3 of y was already correct. The only other thing that I would suggest is log base 3 of 3 is equal to the number 1. So you could rewrite that entire thing, changing where I put that brace to 1, and that would be completely expanded and simplified. For the next one, remember that a square root is really the 1/2 power. We'll go ahead and put the minus there to split that up. And then I could put the 1/2 in front. X and y need to be split up by multiplication. So, and then minus log base 8 of 3. Typically when we're completely expanding, we want to get rid of the parentheses. So that means that I would distribute my 1/2. If you went about it where you put it as x to the 1/2 power times y to the 1/2 power and then did this, you would have got the same end result. So that's cool too. All right. Solving, let's see here. Remember, we're going to do PEMDAS backwards, so if there's something being added or subtracted on the outside, we're going to move that over first. Then we're going to divide. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then I'm going to convert to exponential form. So I have 2 squared equals x. So x must equal 4. Okay. This one, remember, is a base of 10. So that would be 10 to the x equals the cube root of x. But remember, I can also write that as x to the 1/3 power. So since my bases are the same, x must equal 1/3 because this would have to be the same as this. Okay. And last, we want to split up the fraction here with minus. So ln of 1 minus ln of e to the 7th. ln of 1. So e to what power will give me 1? Well, any number to the 0 power will give me 1. I could think about putting the 7 down here, and ln of e is just 1. So that's 7. 0 minus 7 is -7. All right, you'll notice this one's highlighted. That's because in my A3 synchronous class today, a lot of people had questions on this one. So I wanted to have it open to go over. All right. The sales of a cell phone screen protector after X $100 is spent on advertising are modeled by 20 times 1 minus e to the kx. When $1,500 is spent on advertising, 5,000 units are sold. Find the value of k and write the model. So using the formula given, we first have to find k, which means that we should be able to fill in x and s to solve. And so, which we can. And to do that, this is going to be 1,500 because x is X $100. And actually, back up, X $100, so it's really just going to be 15. It's not going to be 1,500, it's just going to be 15 just because of that wording. So if you thought you were getting it and something wasn't working, that could be why. And that's going to be equal to 5 because again it's in thousands of units, so 5,000. Okay. If you had done 5,000 and 1,500 here, that would have worked too. You would just had been dealing with a little bit bigger numbers, but otherwise no big deal. So when we did this problem or a problem similar to this, think about the half-life problem you had to do. We did the Y1, Y2 in Desmos and solved for K. That is completely fine to do. But now that you have a few more tools in your toolbox, I'm going to show you how to solve it using the solving method, algebraically instead of graphically. Words are hard today. All right, so divide by 20 on both sides to get 1/4 equals 1 minus e to the 15k. Okay. Then I would subtract 1 to get -3/4 equals -e to the 15k. Then I would divide or times, depending who your middle school teacher was, by -1 to get 3/4 equals e to the 15k. So then I want to convert that to logarithmic form. So ln, so log base e of 3/4 equals 15k. Divide by 15. Type all that in my calculator to get k is approximately -0.01918. Okay, so if solving is not your favorite, remember Desmos will allow you to do y equals 5 for the left-hand side, and then 20 parenthesis 1 minus e raised to the 15x. Find where they intersect, and yes, that is the same approximation that we got by solving by hand. So that means that our Formula for this one is 1 minus e to the negative 0.01918 x. Okay, so for this one, all I'm doing is plugging in 35 for x. Which will give me approximately 9,779 covers sold. Okay. All right, next. If I want to write an exponential function that satisfies the condition, so we have examples of those. There's a video of me doing these exact ones. So this one really should not be considered a difficult problem. So y equals the initial value, then 1 minus r because it's decreasing. Okay. And then my initial value was 67,000. 1 minus the rate. Remember rate as it's in percent, but I always want to put it as a decimal. And then raised to the x power. So simplify what's in parentheses. For your function. All right. Okay, so increasing is going to be the exact same way. The only difference is it's increasing instead of decreasing, so it's going to be plus instead of minus. Again, it's important that you make that a decimal. So when I do 1 plus that decimal, I just get 1.0167 raised to the x, and then all that times 67,000. Okay. Also, just a FYI, I know I put at the top it said calculator inactive, and if you're looking at this problem going, how the heck was I supposed to do that as inactive? You weren't. I covered that up. It was a different problem, and I wasn't crazy over the other problem, so I put this problem instead, but this one definitely needed a calculator. So just FYI, that one is not a calculator inactive, but all the others on this first page, you should be kind of thinking, okay, I guess I didn't have to have a calculator for those. All right, so if I want to rewrite, remember we always go around the loop. So the first thing I see is the base of the exponent, and then raised to the exponent equals the middle piece. So in this case, 3/8. If I want to condense, first thing I want to do is bring my exponents up. And then the minus would be condensed by saying divide. And then an exponent to an exponent, that's a power to a power. So I would have x squared y to the 4th. I know that I have completely condensed when I just have ln by itself. However, look on the inside and see if there's anything I can simplify. I have y to the 4th divided by y cubed, which is just y. So I could have x squared y. So ln of x squared y. All right, now for the calculator active part. So these will probably be more decimals. To save a little bit of time, I'm not typing them in. I'm just giving you the answers after the last step, but you would want to go and type them in yourself to make sure that you understood how that happened. So let's see. This is the same as log base e, but first thing I need to do is divide by 5. Because remember, I want log by itself. It's kind of like the exponent there. Then I want to convert forms. So e to the 7th equals 2x. So the last thing you would want to do is divide by 2. So e to the 7th divided by 2, which is approximately 548.317. $11 is a not fun one because it does not factor. I was hoping it did factor, but it doesn't. This I use properties. So if I have a it being split with a plus sign, that actually means multiply. Then when I convert forms, I'm going to get 10 to the 4th power equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. That means I would get 0 equals x squared hold on, I need to back up. I wrote this down wrong. This is a 1, which means in my next line I did this wrong. So if you're like, whoa, 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 you're right. So that's minus x minus 2 instead. So 10 to the 4th power is 4 zeros, so that's 10,000. Subtract that from negative 2 and you get negative 10,002. X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so that would be, I have my sign wrong, negative 1 plus or minus, because if I had the correct sign there, hopefully if you're watching that, you're correcting me like, oh yeah. All right, so b squared would be 1 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 1,000 or 10,002. All over 2a, so that's all over 2. So this is awful, by the way. 40,009 all over 2. So if I do the plus one, hey Google, stop. If I do the plus one, I get approximately 99.511 in my calculator. But if I do the negative one, I get a negative number. And I cannot get that one, so this is the only answer. All right. Hey Google, stop. Sorry, it is time for me to go pick up my boy, but I'm going to try to finish this up first. All right, so number 13, we have fraction equal to a fraction. So I'm going to cross multiply and get 50 equals 11 times 4 plus e to the 2x. Divide by 11. Subtract 4. Not plus equals. So then I do ln of 50 over 11 minus 4 equals 2x, divide by 2, so that I get x is approximately negative 0.303. So I would type, let me change the color here, all of this in my calculator to get that. All right. Notice these next two students have had questions on. The number P of students infected with the flu at Olympia High School T days after exposure is modeled by this. What was the initial number? So initial means when I plug in 0, what do I get? So I plug that in and get approximately 5.39. So about 5 students initially had it. When will 100 students be infected? So again, I would, it's a when, so that means I want to know time. So 100 equals whoops, that's not 100. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out why there's a D here and there's not in the key, but things that don't matter. All right, so 100 would equal 300 over 1 plus e to the 4 minus t. You have two options here. You can solve it very similar to how we solved 13, or you can use this. So y equals 100, and then 300 divided by 1 plus e raised to the 4 minus, x, because t doesn't work right. And I get approximately 3.307. So it'd be after the fourth day, because it would take after the third day for that to happen. So it'd actually round up to the fourth day, because not quite 100 students would be infected by the start of the third day. All right, and then what's the maximum amount of students affected? Well, that's just your numerator, so 300 students. All right. Ooh, we did not, so you guys had a lot of questions on this one. You are not being tested on the pH balance. And we didn't go over that. It was part of those notes that I kind of skipped over for the formula. So I'm going to skip over it on this one. So if you had questions on that one, rightfully so, it will not be tested. It's not over pH. So make sure you know how to do the word problems that we talked about better. All right, so if I graph e to the x squared minus 5 minus 2, what does that look like? If you are having problems getting enough stuff in the exponent, just always put parentheses around it, and it'll make everything hang out up there instead of jumping back down. Okay. So important numbers to note. All right. And then, so it wants to know what's the domain. The domain is anything. And then what's the range? It's this bottom to the top. So and then it goes up forever. Where is it increasing at and decreasing at? I do not like this problem that it gave. Why? It is decreasing from negative infinity until negative 1.9. And remember, we care about the x value, so that's 0. And then it is increasing from 0 to infinity. Remember, the only time you use brackets is domain and range if it's included, so everything else is parentheses. And then there are no vertical, horizontal, or holes. And that concludes. Oh, you would want to kind of give a example or approximation here and then graph it. But otherwise, you are finished with your review.